And welcome back to eBEFOREi Video Reviews. Today we're taking a look at Transformers LG55 Slugslinger. This is the Takara version of Slugslinger. Now, I didn't review the Hasbro Generations version, this guy right here, on my channel. So this review, I'm primarily going to just compare these two figures. You can already see the stark color difference. But I'm going to compare these two figures, and then you can decide if he's worth importing, which it actually isn't really that expensive to do so, or if you want to hunt for this guy in your retail stores, if you're watching this and he's more readily available, that's really up to you. Anyway, enough about that. A few interesting things before we start this review. The Takara figures come with a really big set of instructions that includes a comic, so you get the full-size artwork, which is really nice. And on the back, you've got the technical specs, which is cool. What I wanted to show you is the inside, which is Japanese. There's like naked little people. I don't know what's happening here. This is really odd, and it's not anything you would see here in the States, believe it or not. When you unfold it some more, you get a full page of instructions. The box that it comes in has this giant barcode over the artwork, which kind of sucks, but I'm not a big box keeper. Here's the back of the box and side. So you kind of know that there are some differences between the way that this is packaged and the way that the American version is done. This one also ships in vehicle mode, and the Hasbro version here in the States ships in bot mode. Let's get the camera flipped around. Let's look at this guy on the table and decide if this is something that you're interested in or not. Now here they are in their vehicle modes. Here's the Hasbro version right here on the left, and the Takara version right here on the right. And immediately, you can see that the weapon is different because the Takara version comes with the Targetmaster Caliburst, whereas the Hasbro version, Caliburst, is the little headmaster. And that's a pretty significant difference. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, wait a minute, doesn't the Takara version, doesn't that head pop off too and transform into a robot? Yes, it does, but oddly enough, or not, the Takara version transforms into a miniature version of Slugslinger, not Caliburst himself. So I'll show you that here in a few minutes. As you can see, the general shape of the vehicle mode is the same. So you just have a completely different color here. You've got blue and you've got aqua, like a teal. It's funny, if you asked me what color Slugslinger was before I picked up the Takara version, I probably would have told you he's blue, but no, he's clearly very aqua, especially when you see him next to the Takara version. So there they are all the way around. I'll take the weapon off to kind of make it look a little bit more similar, and let's take a look at the differences as well. Again, Takara on the right, you can see that the shade of, now this is really interesting. Maybe it's just my lights, but I don't think so. The clear plastic for the windshield on the Takara version is actually a tealish color, whereas the Hasbro version, which is the teal vehicle, has more of a bluish color. You'd think that would have been swapped. That's really kind of odd, but it is what it is. As you get back into the wings section, there's actually, surprisingly so, more paint on the Hasbro version than there is on Takara, because they've got these tamps right here that are really pretty gorgeous, I think. Very, very nice, and this doesn't have it, but this has much more of a cleaner look with just the Decepticon symbols right in front of the little jets there. Going back to the back, again, this is Hasbro. More paint. These are not stickers, and they look really nice. I mean, they're on there nearly perfect. And there's Takara with just the more subtle kind of a gold color and not much more paint. Now, on the side of the vehicles, you can see that Takara added the blue paint on the bottom half of the cockpit section, and this went left unpainted on Hasbro. So definitely a bit of a difference there, and it really is a matter of preference. On the back of the vehicle, you've got paint here on the exhaust part on the Takara version and not on Hasbro, and that really looks gorgeous. So that's a very cool thing for me. And then, of course, the Hasbro release came with the two weapons that combine into one, and since this has the Targetmaster, you just have the one weapon right here, which we'll get into fully here in just a few minutes. For those that are interested to see what's going on in the underbelly of these two figures, there you go. And actually, that's one additional cool little feature, which again we'll cover in robot mode, but you've got some paint in there as well. Focusing on the Takara version for just a second, just to get a better overall look at the vehicle, it's really cool. You've got this twin cockpit. These windows don't open, But this one does, right in the middle, and this is where you put your Prime Master, and there's little mini Slugslinger driving himself, and we'll get into that in just a minute. Now, let's take a look at Caliburst. The Takara version comes with an actual Targetmaster, which the Hasbro version does not, and it's pretty cool. I like it. I like the way that this looks. You can clearly kind of see how the transformation happens when you look at it from the top, because those are clearly legs to me anyway. But from this side, it's pretty kind of a futuristic looking weapon, and I kind of dig that. I don't like the hands. The instructions tell you you're supposed to leave them in the back or the whole arm section. So when I'm holding it in the figure, I generally like to kind of put them down so it kind of looks like that as a weapon versus just kind of sticking out. Now you can move them up to the front as well, but that looks kind of weird too. You could kind of go something like that, which I guess isn't that bad. I don't know, maybe that's how I'll put him in when I put him back on the shelf. Not sure. But anyway, you've got some options. Now to transform Caliburst, it's pretty easy. All you need to do is take the legs section. You're going to bring the whole thing down like this. You're going to lift him off his peg. His whole chest section is sitting on a peg. You're going to lift that off, and you're going to rotate it all the way back around and lock it in place like that. Then you're going to separate the legs. Face them forward like that. You're going to turn the head around. Little tiny head. Oh, the paint on this is spectacular, though. Bring the arms down. Then you're going to come to the back section, and you're just going to lift this whole thing up, and it slots into his backpack. There's a couple of tabs and a couple of tab holes, and you're going to marry them up, and there you have little bitty Caliburst. Let's take a closer look. I have to say the paint on Caliburst is amazing. This is a tiny, tiny little head. I mean, look at my giant thumb, which badly needs a manicure this close. But you can see the face is wonderful. Tiny, tiny little paint application with red eyes and that kind of gold mask and his frowny face. It really looks good. The paint inside the arms, again, very well done. There's little to zero bleed over, which is really impressive for something this small. And then down to the legs. Again, look at how fantastic those legs look. A little bit of paint rubbing off. I don't know if it came that way or if maybe it's something that I did when he was transformed. It's not something that I've noticed until I've got him really, really close under these lights in the high-def camera. So, not sure. Let's back this train up a bit. There's the backpack. Looks pretty good. There is some silver paint right there. Exposed back, which is okay. You see the ball joints in the legs. For articulation on Caliburst, his head obviously moves around as I showed you. Arms do the 360 all the way around. And he also has some rotation in the shoulder, but there is limitation due to the ball joint and the way that the shoulder hits. Chest piece, nothing really happens with that. That becomes the handle for the weapon. His legs are on a ball joint, and I love that you get a little bit of movement like that. That's very cool. So that is Caliburst. Now here's Titan's Return Caliburst, and you can see it's not as clean. It's a small head too, but they kind of botched the face paint there. Kind of a whitish look to the face and the red eyes, and no other paint on the figure except for the head on the back, which we'll get to in robot mode. If you're buying these because you're in the market for Caliburst, then obviously you've got the clear winner in the actual Targetmaster. If that doesn't mean anything to you, then whatevs, we'll continue on with the review. Getting back to paint applications, going back to the Takara versus Hasbro comparison, now the figure on the right is Takara, and that is supposed to be Slugslinger, not Caliburst. The one on the left is supposed to be Caliburst, but look at the paint difference. The Takara version is flawless. It really, I mean, it's so small, but really done well. And the Hasbro one is a little bit sloppy. I also like how Takara used a darker screw, so it's not quite as obvious. The rest is the same, and again, we'll compare the heads when we get them transformed. By the way, for those that want to know whether or not there's anything inside the cockpit, there is a seat molded in, which is kind of neat. Not much for controls, and that's the case with both the Takara and the Hasbro version. Also, before we get them transformed, I want to just make quick note of the in-plastic molding on the wings and the front section. Really good. There's a lot of lines on the figure that are molded in, and it really does look nice. I love it when extra time seems to be spent on just, the little things like that I appreciate. All right, let's get Slugslinger transformed. We'll go ahead and concentrate on the Takara one. The transformations are identical, so you learn one, you know them both. The first thing you want to do is just make sure that you've untabbed the wings from the legs. What you got to do is you got to take it out of the peg on top and the peg on the side. So there's two places where that peg's in. At this point, you can grab the legs and you can unfold them like that. Then he's got a torso piece or a waist piece. I'm going to put the wings in just a little bit. Then I'm going to collapse that piece, and you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm kind of wiggling it down and then moving the legs and wiggling it down. And then it kind of just sits there flush. It doesn't snap in like a audible snap, but it does kind of let you know that it's in the right place when you get it there. It's a nice, snug little fit. Then you come down to the feet. Lift the whole thing down like that, which brings the heel along with it, and you can just kind of straighten them out like that. We're going to come to the sides and just kind of lift the arms out. They're on a dual hinge. Hinge, that is the 2. Then we're going to come around to the back piece and just kind of lift out like that and bring the entire thing down, another dual hinge. Make sure at this point that you've taken your headmaster out of the cockpit, because if you haven't, this back piece is going to cover it up and you're going to go, "Doh!" and swear to yourself and then have to take it out again. I'm going to open up the fists at this point. And then I'm going to take that hinge and I'm going to collapse it up. Again, not really an audible snap, but it does fit up there quite snug. And yeah, that's a simple one. We're done. All we need to do is transform the head. We'll take our little mini version of Slugslinger and we'll go ahead and do a sit-up and then a tornado duck, tuck, and roll kind of position. Lift him like that. Some of these little headmasters, they're better if you turn the head to fit into the slot. With this particular one, I don't think it makes much of a difference. I don't think so. Yeah, it's maybe easier just to leave where it is. The head is now installed. I'll get Hasbro Sluggy transformed off camera and put them together and show you what they look like. And here are the slingers of Slug in their robot mode, and they both look good. But one, you know, it's funny because I'm a big fan of paint applications, obviously, but it's interesting how this almost looks, you know, a little bit maybe overkill with where the paint applications have been applied, and this is just kind of classy the way that it looks, but both of them definitely seem to suffice for a cool looking Slugslinger. Let's go all the way around. I will say with the Takara version, you've got the blue panel inside the wing, and that looks a little bit weird. I don't know if I like that, but I get why they, well, no, I don't. They painted it to match the inside, but this, they didn't do that here, and so that's just kind of an odd choice. Continuing to go all the way around the figures. So yeah, there they are in their robot modes. Let's take closer looks. The head sculpts are identical, but I'll tell you what, Hasbro's face wins the quality assurance test here because there's something weird going on with the Takara mouth. Now again, I'm under high-def lights and camera, and you're going to see it. When it's on the shelf, I don't really notice the difference, but see how that mouth is clean? It's a nice clean mouth. You do have dark eyes, but the red doesn't really pop. I love the red popped eyes on this version, but the mouth looks like a little bit of maybe paint overspill where the mouth slit would be. Now, other obvious changes, you've got paint inside on the Takara, a nice kind of dark silver paint right here in his shoulders, unpainted on Hasbro. Now, the most glaring difference is the gold paint inside the chest panels, and it's just gorgeous here. It looks a little plain here. Now, if you're into touching up your figures, you could probably pretty easily take a little bit of gold paint and paint those up. I don't know how that would look on the teal look versus the blue. You might want to go with a little bit of a different shade of gold or a different color altogether, but overall not bad. The Decepticon symbol on the Takara version's a little bit wider than the one on the Hasbro version. You see how on this guy, see how it takes up the entire in-plastic molding on that piece, and this one really doesn't. So there definitely is a size difference there. Now for articulation, the arm is on a ball joint, and it does go all the way around. The elbow goes beyond 90 degrees, doesn't go back at all. There is waist articulation, so for a deluxe scale figure, that's pretty cool. You do have a ball joint inside of the thigh, swivel under that. The knee, because of transformation, now you're going to get the wing in the way, but it goes all the way back up, well beyond 90. I mean, it folds all the way back on itself. So there is some decent posability that you can get with your Slugslingers. The ankle and foot are not on any type of pivot. It does move up and down, but there's only so much you're going to get there. The head, because of the headmaster peg, you got a little bit of movement, but not really any up and down, very little. You also have this joint inside of the arm so you can get the shoulders up and really pretty dynamic poses if you're into posing your figures. Now going with the Hasbro release for a second, you do have the little headmaster gimmick that you can peg the figure inside of that, and notice that there's a hole in this weapon. Well, first of all, there's two, so that's kind of cool because under the wings in jet mode, I had them on each side of the wings, and it's kind of a cool look. And then you can combine these if you want to go like that and have a single weapon that he can hold on to. Now, obviously, you can peg the headmaster inside of that, so he has his little weapon that he can fire, his sled, so to speak. But that's not a terrible look. It's actually pretty decent. Now, since we have a Targetmaster, I'm going to go ahead and transform this one real quick. Because those arms are sticking out, I'm going to bend them down and kind of attach them into the forearm, and it kind of blends in, and so that's pretty cool. Man, I love the way that looks. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the review, you can take the arms and kind of slot them underneath if you'd prefer to have something like that. It's okay, but they're so obviously arms to me that I don't like that. So that's not for me. I'm going to leave it the way the instructions say, although I am going to drop them down a little bit so that I end up with the dynamic pose and the chill pose. Well, that's basically my review. So the question for you is this something that you feel like is worth importing? Again, it's not that bad. I got mine on Amazon Japan. If you have the app on your iPhone, maybe on Android as well, you can change the country of origin and also select English, so you can get to the Japanese store with English-speaking language. If you are trying to order this and you need some help, you can just type the words in English and you get things like this. So if that's still available, that's an avenue for you to check. And of course, all the usual places where you can do import figures, you certainly can do that. Thanks again for watching eBEFOREi video reviews. I'll be back again soon with another review. Until then, there are a few ways that you can help my channel. Mention it. Again, it's eBEFOREi video reviews. So if you're on social media and people are talking, who's your favorite YouTube reviewer? You can mention my name, eBEFOREi video reviews. And it goes a long way because word gets out if there's quality stuff out there. And I like to think that these are okay in the quality department, but I appreciate all the support. You also can thumb up the video. That lets me know that you enjoy what I do. Even if you don't like the figure, putting thumbs up on a video does let people know that you dig what I'm doing. Also, you can leave a comment, subscribe, that's a big one, and also, after you subscribe, especially on a mobile device, you can click a little bell notification, and then you'll get an update every time I release a new video, which these days have been about one a week or so I won't flood you with reviews. Watch, I'll do 50 tomorrow, but I don't think so. Now, I'm all over social media. I'm on Facebook.com/eBEFOREi. I'm on Twitter @eBEFOREiNet. I'm on Instagram @eBEFOREiNet. I also have a Facebook group where I talk Transformers every day. I'll put that in the description. Thank you again so much for all of your support. We'll see you back here again real soon.